Today we will take a look at how to set up an ODBC connection to a Microsoft SQL server. The first thing I have done here is I have opened up my ODBC manager. It comes in different kind of forms and shapes, but they basically do the same thing. One of the distinctive difference between how to set up an ODBC driver is to determine if the driver should be available for all users on the computer. In that case, you will use the system DSN. Otherwise, it's just for the local user. You can use the user DSN. And this is just the standard user here that will have available for the database. Let's use one for the system DSN. I'll just click my add button here when I want to do that. But before I do it, I'll just take a look at some of the other tags here. And the drivers here shows me how many drivers I have installed. We will use the actual driver in this case, but OpenLink could be a possibility on the Mac platform. There's a variety of different kind of companies delivering these drivers, and do yourself a favor, test them out with the Extreme Live Merge before you purchase them. That could be a very good idea. There are some differences here and there, what they can do, and the feature sets can vary a little bit. This is my installed drivers. We have tracing, so if you ever have a problem in any kind, you can enable tracing and show a log file where it should trace every instance that will happen in the ODBC connection. We have connection pool and about, and nothing more about that. Just go into the system DSN and add my connection. I will have to select a driver for that purpose. And in my case, I will use the SQL server. That's for Microsoft SQL. And if it's open source databases like SQLite or MySQL, you could have chosen this one. MySQL has its own free driver, and you can start with that one. If you have a connection to a MySQL database, that could be a good choice to do. For my case, I would use the Excel driver. It's a very good and fast driver. Just select open here. And now I will have a driver-specific setup window, and I have some steps I'll need to go through, and I will just enter it. So the first thing I will do is to give my source a name, and in my case I will call it Cacidi, and of course I could say it's for MS SQL, so I can recognize it easily in my software which kind of connection I got here. The next thing, I can enter an IP number, and of course you can use different kind of a description of where the server is, but you will have to check the manual for the server and depending on your location. But this is the right one for me. I just press my continue, and it will ask me here if I want to connect to a Sybase or the Microsoft, and I have chosen the Microsoft connection. The next thing I'll do is I will ask it to use my login ID, and I will also enter my password for this one. I can choose to store it in the keychain on the Macintosh, but I don't need to do it. Just press my continue, and it now goes into a request state where it actually asks which kind of database do I have access to with that username and password. And for my case, it's a Cacidi database, and that's good enough, and I'll just use this one. And then I press the continue here, but before I do it, I just ask it to include views in my table list. A view is an executed query that will give you a state of the database. For instance, you can say I want to search for everything that have an ID number larger than 1,000, for instance, or smaller than something, or it should be included in catalog equals yes, and then you can save that state as a view, and later on you can use that view in our software to make your catalog depending on that. So that's a great idea to include views in the table list. Just continue this one. I can change the message system of it. English is fine for me, but I can also do different other settings, like If I have a very, very long query, let's say more than that could be on a full letter page, I could ask it to save that file to a log file so I afterward can go in and determine what's going on here. Again, I can log statistics here and choose a file for that. I don't want to do any language and logging issues here, so just press my continue, and it will give me a status of all the settings I have done here, and I can press my test button here, and it will hopefully say that it is successfully in a second. I'll just enter my password, and it's said test completed successfully, and it was a database version 10.5.0 and Microsoft SQL. So everything is fine for now. Just say OK to that and press done. It will come in my list here, and I have added a description. It will go in here. But now the setup of the driver. ODBC is a kind of three-step. You have database, you have the software that you utilize the data, in our case Cacidi Extreme or Live Merge, and you have this driver in the middle that will make sure that the connection goes fine. So that is our total setup for now. The next thing I will do is I will go in and create a setup for my ODBC connection. So the next thing I will do is I will create a new setup, and I will call it ODBC. Say OK to that. The next thing I will do is change this pop-up to ODBC, and it says I'm unable to connect to anything, but it actually gives me a list of the different kind of DSN I have created. In my case, I will select this one, and of course I will need to enter my username and password once again. I'll just press on my refresh button here, and now it will actually go in and ask for different kind of tables I got in the database, and if I have created views, it will also include it in that one. I will take this one, AHA, price list, and when I select this one, it will actually make a query to the database. It will give me information about the product number, the name and stuff like that. I'll just select a couple of them, and it should be okay for now. The next thing I'll do is I will of course point my different kind of paths to the right one, and bear with me a second. I have pre-created something here. That is my snippet. Just choose that folder, and I will also create my image path. It's here. The script is okay. This one, it could be the root of this one. So now I have set up different kind of paths to the building blocks which we have. It's called snippet. I have an image path that will be included in everything. If I have object script, I have a folder for that one, and I have the template path down here. Just to give you a very, very fast introduction into what the other thing is, styling file. It's an API where you can manipulate data. So let's say that you want to style amount or a currency in your database. You could do it using a styling file. It's a small XML file that has 16 different kind of manipulation schemes. One of them could be to divide a field in different kind, separated by a comma, something like that. Or it could be that you want to take the first 5 digits from the left of a string, stuff like that. The prescript and the postscript, it's two different kind of script. Prescript is very often used to manipulate data in very advanced way, and that is something that will happen before a catalog is produced. A postscript is something that happens after a catalog is produced. So if you're using Extreme for creating your document, prescript will be executed before the document is created, and postscript is done after the document is created. Postscript is great for, let's say, exporting every pages as a JPEG, or something like create a table of contents. PostScript is good for that because it happens when the document is actually built. So that is two hooks that you can use for applying just a standard regular InDesign JavaScript. The template part is of course where your InDesign template is. I won't talk much about the group field and information down there. A little bit of that later on. I just press my OK button here, and if I create a new document, just like this one, I'm ready to do some kind of production. The first thing I will do is just to show you the pop-up menu. I have a number of different products here. Some of them is called the same. That's basically variation. We will talk about that a little later on when we groups the data. But just to give you an idea what is very, very easy to get, I could search for something in my pop-up. Why not search for COF, just like coffee, and it will narrow down my information, as you can see, to a fewer records. And if I search for AL, just for giving you example, it will narrow down for that one. If I have a specific number, I could, I don't know if this exists, but it will narrow it down to whatever we got here. If you don't want to have filtered in any way, you can just enter a blank field and press enter, and it will reset it to show all the records. All the records is not completely true. It will take the first 200 records, and then you have to search for everything else. The same is for Extreme. Let's make it very, very fast and very simple design, just to show you that we actually get data in it. Just have this box here, and I go to my text link panel. I have the same one in Live Merge. Just make it a little bit bigger and just start entering different kind of fields here, just to make sure that we have something that will go into it. I will save this one as a design. I could call it test. Test is a very good name for that. Just press my create button here, and now it will actually ask the Microsoft SQL database for all the records that has the search term that we have decided in the project settings. We haven't talked much about that, but in this case it is 181 of those. As you can see, we get a lot of data in it, and everybody is quite happy. We can have this free text search here, but we could also have it in another place. Let's say that I just in the query field here have Albany, or just a few of the letters here, and just press OK for that. I can again just have to yes, just select my design again, and I can press create here, and you can see it only takes 5 records because we only got 5 that actually has that information in it. So you can narrow it down in the field here for information about what should go into it. But you could actually do a lot more. You could say select everything that has a field that's bigger than something or equal to something. You could do that by entering a query. In this pop-up here, we have some sample for it, and just to give you an idea what this is, it will actually try to give this value. You can say my table does not has the name product, so you just enter that one for something different, and you can do it that way. So, you should be aware that some of the functionality we already have in the software to make it easy can conflict with whatever you have in a query. So if you enter a query, you are responsible for doing all the different kind of grouping and manipulating of data. So if you enter something in the query field other than just free text search, you could have weird result using the group field too. And let's talk about the group field. because what you did saw probably was that in the pop-up menu we did have, for instance, 5 records called Albany and a number called Bern and so on. So what I want to do is have one product but have a small list of variation, and the easy way to do that is to go in and say I would like to group it, and in our case we will use the field noun. Noun is the name of the product, and if I just do this one and I go back and see my pop-up menu here, you can probably see here and we only have one of them, so it has grouped the information. But it only has the record for the first one. So what we next do is to determine which data from the other record, record 2, 3, and so on, that we actually want to collect and use for later. So the next thing I will do is to make a kind of variation list, or we call it a loop field because we can take information about that. First thing I will do is just have my product number, and I would like my name, and I like my color, and I would like my height, length and depth of the product, and I would like to have my price too. So now I have a list of information here that will be collected for all the records I have in the group. So if I make a small adjustment to our design, I can actually have the small lists. So the next thing I will do is actually just take this one and say I would like to have some comment information up here, not for the color and stuff like that, but it could be a small list down here. So just insert a reserved name called loop here, and the loop will give me that information in a small list, and it will, every field will be comma separated. Just enter this one so you can see what is going on. I think I would have to make it a little bit bigger, just like this one, and maybe I would like to say that we only got 2 columns here, something like that. That could be nice. I'll just save this one, replace my text and say OK to that. And the next thing I will do is try to run it. So I just press my create. Before we had 150 or 80 or something like that. Now we're down to 40 because we have actually collected this one. So this is my small variation list. You can see I have my product number, my name of the element, the color, and some stuff about height and width and depth and stuff like that, and the price, of course. So now I have one record representing all the element, and everything goes into a box. We can actually use the grouping feature by using the what we call curly bracket functionality. So I'll just show you how to do that as a very last thing to do. Just give you this one. And curly bracket is where we select elements in the loop field. Make sure that the things that you actually use down here in the curly bracket functionality is something that you have selected in this field. So if you haven't selected it, you haven't collected the data, and you won't be able to use it. So everything that you want to use in a curly bracket loop field, you will have to select that information, and when you select it, you also collect it for every record. It's very easy to use, and I can just give you some example of how it is. The first thing I will do is just to enter curly bracket, just like this one. It means start with a curly bracket start and end where it was. If I want to be line determined, I should have this one. So that is actually between the 2 curly brackets. That's also a line shift there. To insert information could be as easy as pressing the information I got. I want tab, and I want the color, and then I want a tab again, and now I'm just entering just like you would do in a normal sense, and I just have the price, this one. And of course I can style everything here in different manner. Oops, just have to select it the right way and just have this in italic, for instance. And this one should be a totally different font. I can just do that. and it could be bolds. That's my price. Okay, this design I will save again. Just go to the first one here, and I can save it, and I will call it test, just like this one. I will place it, and I will do my one here. So now I'm grouping the data and put it into a small field, and as you can see in a second, we have our styling exactly the one we did, and of course if we have done it a little bit nicer with the tabulated stuff, it could be even better. Let me just show you one of the designs. I have a design here where you probably can see that we have a lot of information in it. It is actually a table, and the table is using curly brackets too. And if I hold down my Alt key or just select it from here, you can see that I did it actually exactly the same way. I have an image, inline image, an inline barcode using Cacidi barcodes, this product here. That's the product where this one is made in. And we have a curly bracket for start, and I have the curly bracket for end. So it will continue to loop over as many that we got in the element. We even have a delete empty image here, so if there are no image, it will trash it. And the next thing I'll have to do is just to create a different size here and make it wider. Say OK to that, and I will have 2 times 2. I believe that's a good size of doing it, and I'll just ask software to being able to use this design, and I'm cheating a little bit. I need the name for this one because that's the only one I got, so I just copy this information here so I'm sure I don't misspell it, and I will use an AutoCalc method that will call, it's called prototype placement inline, and the prototype placed inline will actually create 2 columns, a text frame with 2 columns in it, and it will place everything into that one, and of course break everything where it should go. Just enter this one because that's the name of the information, and that's all I need to have for this kind of AutoCAD. So I've selected this one. Good idea is to save the setup for next time. So I could call it cat next time. Just like this one, save the setup of this one, and when I click the calculate button, it will actually go in, drag all our data out, it will make the grouping, it will put it into this design, and it will continue to create as many as we have, and it will also be included in a running text frame between pages to pages. And here we have the results. I should have made the pages a little bit bigger, but I hope you can bear with me on this one. And if I just make this a little bit smaller, you can see that it will actually divide everything up to a smaller one. But very easy to use and very fast way of creating catalogs. Thank you for now. Thank you for watching.